Hello and welcome to The Hero Spouse. I'm Kendra Ruth, here to answer one of your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. Today we have an anonymous female left behind and forward-moving spouse with a bomb drop of September 6th, 2023 and a date of marriage of 1984. She has an off and on who is a high-energy replayer. She says the issue of being jerked out of the tunnel or before they can enter the tunnel has come back into play in my mind. And I would just want you to clarify what you mean when you say that if this happens, and otherwise I have said if they are yanked out of the front of the tunnel in the beginning sometimes, or early, prematurely, so it seems like MLC is suddenly over before they've really been in it very long. She says, and I say it will only be experienced in a worse form. And what I say is it'll come back later. They'll have another MLC many years later, and it will be a worse one, or it'll be a doozy. So she then says, I think back to 2019 in December when I had had foot surgery and I had limited mobility for 2 weeks. On one of those days, my husband had his office Christmas lunch party, and I thought he would come home later to keep me company since it was very difficult to be bedridden for 2 weeks. But no, he informed me that he wanted to party on. A few days later, he had said he didn't want to attend his brother's 25th year celebration of his company. Then he acted strangely cooking for just me, but obviously trying to go without admitting he was going. We had a big argument, particularly about this desire to party. He had exhibited very risky behavior earlier in the year. We'd just turned 60 in June. Then in 2020, in March, so this is just as COVID was hitting, or right a few seconds before, and we'd started to hear about it probably if it was just before, my mother died. I'm so sorry. And of course, the lockdown started in this month. Yeah. He later said that the COVID lockdown hadn't treated him well. Not that he said anything at the time. Yeah, I can get that. It was hard for all of us, but we're all trying to make do. So he was only praising me for keeping the family together by cooking meals to eat together. I think now that this entry into the tunnel was prevented, and he has certainly had an extreme reaction to me and the marriage since bomb drop. He had been, I realize now, a wallower. Yeah. Refusing to go anywhere without me. Then, when the 26-year woman who was 26 years younger than him took an interest, he bolted, and the discard has been very cold and extreme. So I wonder if you can clarify the repercussions of not entering the tunnel when they should. It's almost 2 years, and financial separation is almost complete. This was begun just 4 months after bomb drop, with me having no say in it or any chance to reconcile. In mediation, he was shocked by my legal claim to our shared assets. It was a very good and supportive marriage, and like so many others' experiences, it has come as a shock to me and to our children and our friends. Now, I've been told that the alienator relationship has ended. He's posted openly about the affair partner, and now he writes about being tentative but excited to begin a new chapter alone. I think his mental health must be very poor. Any thoughts on his journey? Let's see. I think you're onto something with this having this earlier period before the official bomb drop, having been a wallowing period. And this is why it is a lot harder to detect with wallowers, the timeline, how much has happened. Some are wallowers, and that might be simply how their temperament works. COVID, well, that can mess everybody up. For one, COVID is a trigger for the entire world. But also, when you can't get out of the house because of lockdown, and none of us have experienced anything like that, how it's very hard to have the affair if you haven't already started something. And you can't go out and meet anyone, you can't go anywhere, because you just have to stay. There's nothing you can do. It stifles it. So yeah, it may have very well stifled an affair. And so in that sense, he may have been somebody who was not a wallower naturally by temperament. In other words, wallowers often start out seeming like high energy replayers because replay is fun. It's the bachelor party, and you want to try and party and have fun. And wallowers try that, but they fail. So it seems like they're doing that. But in his case, it almost was the opposite, is because he was forced to wallow. And because of the conditions, and not set by you, but just by the universe. And he couldn't get out. He couldn't do the replay activities. So when the opportunity arose, yes, he bolted. So what are the consequences of that? I think the consequences may simply be that you start your timeline from your bomb drop. He was stifled. What really is going on when I talk about an MLC and you're yanked out, I talk about there being a gap like 10 years. And the left behind or forward moving spouse thinks everything's fine now. Sometimes they may even do some repair work, but it's not usually a lot. Not the full breadth of what needs to be done. And a lot of times there's just rug sweeping. But you think everything's fine. They don't talk about it. And everything goes back to normal. 10 years go by. And bam, there's another bomb drop. And sometimes in those 10 years, there's eggshell walking, but there's denial. You don't really realize what you've been doing and how you've been holding it in and how you've been trying to like, oh, I don't want to do this because I don't want that to happen. And you may not be aware of that in yourself. And so 10 years go by. It could be 8 to 10 to 15, whatever. Usually when I see an arc that's only a couple of years, I say that's really the same crisis. It just, we have some who cycle. And they cycle back and they cycle forth and they can cycle for longer periods. But 10 years, I don't call that a full cycle. I call that separate. So I wouldn't say he was, I like how you put it, that he hadn't fully entered the tunnel. I think he was starting to. So he got to the ante room. And you were seeing these and you were probably about to get this bomb drop. And so you weren't aware. If he had had a bomb drop, if he had said something, let's say the week before COVID and everything, that he did the bomb drop, but he didn't move out and he hadn't left. They don't always have somebody. But now that there's a message out there, it might have changed the dynamics. It doesn't always. It might change the dynamics. Or if the bomb drop had come 3 months, more than 2 weeks, 3 months, it might have changed the dynamics. Because at least now it's out there. I've made it public, because public doesn't have to be public to anyone but you. I can go do it now. But that he hadn't done that, it's, oh my God, when can I tell her? When can I tell her? When can I say something? And so that was stifling for him. And so he did more stuffing, which means there's more to come out. I can't tell you at all whether that is going to make his worse or not, because it's not really 2 crises. It doesn't have that period of 10 years of trying to hide the normalcy. It has a few years of stuffing, which is still stuffing. But it doesn't have, I went into a crisis, I told her I was in a crisis, I may have left or I was at home wallowing, whatever it was. And then we got better. And we maybe went to counseling, but it was performative possibly. And everything, and you may have thought you were better. And there may have been emotional stuffing that we were unaware of during this 10 years, whatever. Or things were better. But things had not been resolved through the crisis. The initial crisis didn't resolve the pieces of self that needed to be integrated. And so there were still gaps in development. And those they burst open. And you became aware of them after that 10-year period. So that hadn't quite had that time for those. The gaps in the development hadn't really started being resolved with that first period of where he was not quite. He was in the anteroom of midlife crisis. He hadn't gotten far enough along. So what I would do is I would consider this all part of the same crisis. But like I said with wallowers, if you don't have a good solid bomb drop, or they make a statement to you, or it's clear through obvious behaviors, obvious being somebody moves out. They move out and we know that you're separate. Obvious being we've found out that there's an affair and you've discovered and told them. And hey, and there's I'm not sure I want to be married. And then they come back and they stop and they're pretending. Still, It happened, though. If there's not that, and you didn't seem to have that, it started like it was getting to that point. Yeah, we have followers that are like that some people come to us going through what you were going through. How do we do a timeline? And it is hard. So I'm going to put your timeline still at bomb drop right now, because that's when he really can start getting the ball rolling. And so I want you to think about that. And rather than focusing on, oh my gosh, he's going to have a worse crisis than everybody else, don't worry about that, okay? It has been 2 years since that bomb drop, okay? And you've had a rough 5 years, haven't you? So for now, or a rough 6 years. So right now, you're going to be working on yourself, and you're going to be working on living that fullest life you can. You've got a new grandbaby, don't you? And he's going to be off there thinking about, excited to start his new chapter alone. Let him. Maybe that will work out well for him. Sorry. Maybe, but maybe it won't. Or maybe it will work out well for him and he still doesn't want it. Maybe if it works out well enough for him in the sense that he's alone and don't trust that that's going to last. It may not. I'm not saying either way. But if he can start thinking, if his mind starts boiling up so that liminality can get a hold of him. And I'm not saying it will or won't, because they run from that. And if another alienator comes along, or the other one gets back into him, then this is a cycle instead. But let him go into liminality. Let him process. I know that you are older than most MLC situations. And so the idea of, I don't have time, is there in your mind. So I'm sorry. And we can't, I don't have a magic wand to change that piece of it. So I want you to choose what you're going to do with your life. I want you to work on healing and thriving for all paths of your life. At the same time, if he has these insights, if he goes forward, and this isn't in the next month, this is still liminality and the processing. If he can come through that, there will be regrets. Now, will he eventually let you know about those regrets? Maybe. Many do. And then they let them know. They let you know about the regrets, and then they still go back and they turtle in because they're scared. You feel like things are doing better, and they turtle in. And these regrets can be communicated years later, okay? So if he starts to do what he's doing now, and he lets you know of regrets in 6 months, I would be tread carefully. If he did it in 5 years, you tread carefully, but there might be it might be a little meatier, okay? I'm not saying I want you to wait 5 years, okay? But the more time that he has to to work on himself, think through and develop and come to those regrets, then the more he may be, the more authentic he may be, the more solid he may be in them when it comes to communicating with you and not having to run away again. Or at least he may have longer reconnections and be more confident in them. May still turtle in, but that's a natural fear of, I feel like I became too vulnerable. And how is she handling that? How am I handling that? I'm scared now. And then they need from you maybe some grace, some space, but also, you know what? It's okay. You can have space, but thank you for sharing. I understand this is hard to do, and I thank you for apologizing. It meant a lot to me. Just grace. You're not there yet, I know, So right now, we're working on your healing. I am not going to focus on this being, oh my gosh, this is going to be so much worse than other midlife crises. No, not necessarily, okay? Right now, it's just that some of them do start out as one, and they can transition. And due to the uniqueness of our world situation with COVID, I think that had a lot to do with it. It's not the most common that they transition. But given the situation, that really had a lot to do with it. Okay. Because it seems like he is more of a high energy given what's been going on. And high energy doesn't have to mean the partying, but the way he's been treating you with the cruelty as well. Okay. And he's just been cutting you out and the vanishing and cutting you off. But give him time to have his regrets. Give him time to sit in those and figure that out. Okay? And you may get something, but it's not going to be on the timeline you want. But when you do, it's going to be that gift of, I'm so sorry. I really have regrets. And he might say, I know it's too late, and maybe it will be. Maybe it won't be for you. And he may not be saying, I want to come home. But he may still be saying, I would like to make some amends by saying, I'm sorry. I just want you to know, I really effed up. And I wish I hadn't done it. And I know I don't deserve you. And all of those things. You might get the apology you want, even though you don't get the ending you want. Okay. But the most important thing, you live for you. Okay. Don't live for that apology. It might not come, but it might. We see a lot of them, but sometimes we don't hear about as many as we want to because they come, but people don't come and report them. I get some reports, and some of them are years off. Like, oh, I hadn't heard from that person for a while, and it's kind of like, you won't believe who contacted me 8 years down the road, that sort of thing. And it's, yeah, he said he regretted it and all of these things, he wished he'd never done it, blah, blah, blah. Some of them ask to come home. Some of them don't because they think, well, of course I can't come home, or their spouse has already moved on and has another spouse. But they still give the regret. They still give the apology. Okay. It's not all of them. But those who really dig in can do it. Okay. Now, you dig in to your healing, to your growth, so that you're not going to only survive, but you are going to thrive and be the best grandma for that grandbaby and for all the other grandbabies that you may have coming. Okay? Because you have a lot left in this world. So I hope this is helpful. And this coming Thursday is Facebook Live or Q&A Live. So this is my last questions that I'm just answering this way until after the Q&A Lives, which usually go on Thursday, Monday, and then the next Thursday. And then the week after that, I will resume the Q&A Lives. The pre-recorded questions. And so make sure you keep submitting. Submit for the lives and submit for the pre-recorded ones, please, as well. I will see everybody on Thursday. Thank you.